The Misuse of Drugs Medicinal Cannabis Amendment Bill is before the Health Select Committee at present, whose members are considering amending the Misuse of Drugs Act to improve access to medicinal cannabis for New Zealanders who are suffering from terminal illness. The bill passed its first reading at the end of January, of course, and the Health Select Committee is now hearing submissions on its scope and its future. Among those making submissions in favour of the bill getting more teeth and making cannabis more readily available is Beverly Aldridge from a Grey Power branch in Whanganui. She's appearing before the committee tomorrow morning, and I spoke to her earlier as she and her husband were travelling to Wellington.
I represent Otamatea Grey Power and actually the silent majority, because we have had a lot of support from the elderly around the country, to be denied the ability to grow our own cannabis, and when we have so many people in the older age group who are suffering from various ailments and from horrific pain, to us is elderly abuse, and it's a basic breach of our human rights to be able to grow a plant.
So you want the right to grow cannabis for yourself, and pain relief is the argument you're making. And I wonder, of the people who are contacting you seeking to use cannabis as a form of mitigation, what afflictions are the ones they most often cite as the reason for wanting to use cannabis?
Okay, well, there are lots of us who are now suffering from glaucoma, people who have strokes in their family know that if they take cannabis, according to the studies, it activates straight away in the brain and it lessens the effects of the stroke so that they can be okay. But if they actually have it beforehand with a history of it, they will possibly never ever have a stroke. Now, there are lots of people also who are suffering from pains. They have arthritic pains, broken back pains, that the back isn't healing in their older ages.
Beverly, sorry, is this you? I mean, I know you are a representative of Grey Power, and clearly that's why you're going to be before the committee tomorrow, but are you also talking from personal experience here? Is pain an issue in your life?
I suffer from glaucoma. I suffer from colitis, which can be healed. I've been told that the medical profession can do nothing for me and that I have to learn to manage it. My husband has a broken back and it's developed osteoporosis at that break, and he suffers extreme pain. He's also had a minor heart attack, and when he went into hospital he came out with 18 types of medications which almost killed him. He's been left with what they call an insult to his kidneys, which are now hardly functioning. So personally, we have a need for being able to grow cannabis. It's not fair that he has to suffer that pain and he can't take painkillers for it because they've damaged his body so much with the other medications that they gave him. Actually, 60%, according to Dr. Falkoff, he says that 60% of the people who have cancer are using cannabis.
And do you know of people who are using cannabis in those circumstances?
Well, yes, I do.
And how are they getting it? Where are they getting it from?
They don't tell me where they get it from, but I do know that the gangs are heavily involved in supplying cannabis to children at school gates and things like that. We elderly don't want to be involved in that. We actually want to be able to grow our own and not have to mix in those circles.
So, Beverly, what are you after? You are after the right, essentially, to grow your own cannabis for your own use.
Yes, exactly that. Although CBD is excellent, it's good, it has to be combined with the THC because the two components, as well as all the rest of the plants, they work synergistically together. So if you just have the CBD, it will only be effective for those for whom CBD only will be effective. But THC and all of the other 500 odd components are really necessary. And what we really want to do is to be able to have access to the cannabis plant that is grown organically under the sun in the elements. So therefore the plant is exposed to the various rays, all of the rays of the sun. We don't want synthetic cannabis. We don't want cannabis that has been grown in hothouses. We don't want it when it has been implanted with the suicide gene, or when it has been subjected to insecticides, because that defeats the purpose of trying to get healthy.
So the Otamatea chapter of Grey Power is making quite a radical submission, Beverly, relatively speaking, and that is for the simple right to use cannabis and to grow it for yourselves. What kind of hearing do you expect?
When we presented our petition to the Justice and Electoral Committee, they were very interested in what we had to say. So I'm hoping that we will get be treated with dignity as we were then, and that we will be listened to, and that hopefully they will understand how important it is that we are able to grow our own cannabis plants.
Beverly Aldridge, who is from Otamatea in the north, of course, not Whanganui. That was my fault, and I apologise to all concerned. She's making her submission to the Select Committee tomorrow morning.